to tackle these lovely PWK28 carburetors. So this is the condition they came in on the bike. Generally they haven't got any sort of wear in them, but as you can see they're pretty minging. So I'm going to take them apart and give them a good clean up. So the idea is we're not just going to clean the outside, we are going to clean the insides as well. Because the thing with old fuel is it lacquers up the inside of your carbs. Now these have had fuel in recently because when I first got this bike I started it up. So the insides are fairly clean, but they're going to get cleaned again. So this is your little float. What that does is as your fuel comes in there, through into this centre body, and then there's a little valve in there. I know the lighting here is terrible. Little valve in there, which is operated by this float. So your float bowl, which is this bit, fills up with fuel. And these, when they're floating petrol, when they get to a certain point, they'll shut the fuel off. So if you turn your fuel on and it's just pissing out the overflow, generally means that a little valve's stuck. That's why if you give them a little tap, it generally stops it leaking. Right. There's that little valve I was talking about. So, in here, that's your main jet, and the one behind it is your pilot jet. So 2 jets. There's also another jet, which is controlled by the needle. So you've got a needle jet. The needle jet sits in there. That's the emulsion tube, which has got little holes in as well. So you've got to make sure all of these are spotlessly clean. That's the idle adjustment screw, which somebody's just blanked off, so that needs sorting out. And this is your pilot air mixture screw. There's a little spring on it. Yeah, if you look at that, that's why we're cleaning stuff. No, that doesn't go in there because that's not going back in. Right. So there's a couple of things I'm going to do. The first thing is these bits are going through the vapour blaster, and then everything is going through the ultrasonic wash. So just crack on and get these in the vapour blaster. These all look lovely and clean now, but because they've been in the vapour blaster, they'll have little tiny glass beads rammed in every single hole. So next stop for these is an ultrasonic wash. I think I'll chuck these in as well. So the old fuel lines, they're covered in crap, but they're still in pretty good nick. So a WD-40. So there we go, that's alright, isn't it? Then go again. So yeah, don't be too hasty about throwing stuff away, because you may find it's perfectly serviceable. It's always worth having a good look at it. A lot of restoration really is about cleaning stuff up and make sure it's serviceable. You don't need to replace absolutely everything. This little one's a vacuum pipe, so that switches your fuel tap on and off. That sits in the top of the carb on this bike, and when the engine's running it creates a little vacuum which operates a diaphragm in the tap. So when the bike's not running, the fuel automatically shuts off. So that's the next lot to go in. Right, ultrasonic washes. There's lots of cheap, shitty Chinese ones on the market. They're alright if you want to, don't know, wash shit with them. But the one I use, I acquired it from work because it was broken and nobody could fix it, so I fixed it and took it home. It's a very good quality one, and I'll show you what it does. The way ultrasonics work is there's a little transducer in the bottom which emits a sound wave through the water column at 40 kilohertz, something like that. That's why you can hear that horrible noise in the background. And what that does is it creates little tiny bubbles in the water, and it causes them to implode, like collapse in on themselves, and that action then on any surface sort of scrubs the surface, so it releases all the dirt from the surface. I'll show you what it does to a bit of tin foil, right? And this is not set up, so what I'll do, so there's no light coming through there. Yeah? Happy? So we'll just put it in the ultrasonics. See that? So that's what it does to tin foil. It punches tiny little holes through it. So if I leave it in there for any longer, that will just obliterate it. So I'll do it slightly thin a bit. Okay. So you can see what it's doing to that tin foil. It's punching holes through it. Okay? So don't ever put your fingers in an ultrasonic wash. So, time to start putting some bits back together. So I'm going to start off. So you can use a little bristle. I have in the past used little bits of frayed brake cable if you're careful. Don't go mental with them because you can change the size of the jet. They're only brass, so don't shove anything down there that's abrasive. But yeah, you can nylon brush, bristles, bit of carb cleaner if you haven't got an ultrasonic cleaner. So these carbs were set up for a K&N air filter. So I may have to change the jetting slightly because I'm going back to an air box. But I won't know that until I actually run it and start setting it up. I have got a standard set of carbs I can stick on it. I'll take the jets out if I need to, but I think these are standard anyway. So on the end of the jet is the number, which refers to the hole size. So you know where you are when you're trying to rejet it. So if it's too rich, then you have to put a smaller jet in it. So it depends where it is rich as well, because it might be rich when it's flat out but not going up through the revs, so you've got to be careful. You've got to jet it, get the main end or main jet done first, get that right, and then you can alter the needle, which most of the running happens on this needle, on this taper and the diameter of this needle. So everything from when the throttle just opens and you come off the pilot circuit, then everything is running right up to 3/4 throttle off this taper. So the whole sort of usable range of your bike is governed really by that needle. It does a lot of work. So this is the little air mixture screw going back in. So this is the snap setting. When you snap the throttle open, it wants to pick up straight away. If it's bogging down, it generally means it's a bit rich, so you can turn this screw in a little bit. If it's not, when you shut off, if the revs are staying high, it generally means it's a bit lean, so you can open this screw up. But I think, just as a baseline, it's all the way in and then a turn and a half out, and that gives you somewhere to start. So those are all looking lovely and clean now. I'll put the throttle slides back in. They obviously need to come back out when I put the cables in. This is literally another thing. That was vapour blasted with the gasket on it, so you can see how gentle it is. So if you'd have done that in a sandblaster, number one, you'd have a finish where, you know, you'd be leaving fingerprints over everything. I think I might treat this to some new screws as well eventually. And also, yeah, with sandblasting or dry grit blasting, you tend to round all the edges off. It's really aggressive. That's why I like my vapour blaster. And the fact is, it was built in this shed. So this is that little valve, and it's got a little sprung-loaded pin in the end. See that? No sound effects. Okay. And what that does is that if that was fixed solid to that float, as the bike runs and that's bouncing, that would cause the valve to chatter. But because it's got this little sprung loaded, that little spring in there just holds it gently against its seat, stops it chattering. So I had a problem with my other KR1s, which is on the road at the moment, and I had some 35mm or 34mm carbs put on it, set up on a dyno, producing loads of horsepower. So I took the bike away because it started to become a bit of a test bed for them, and I was getting a bit pissed off that it being up there for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I brought it back. And it run well, but it was never quite right. And I'd been changing needles, trying to get the carburetor right. I had a massive flat spot in the middle, like really big flat spot mid-range. And when you run it flat out, it would run flat out for a little while, and then the power just drop off, like it was running out of fuel. And I'd done everything. I tried to put a fuel tap, you know, it was starving one of the carbs, put a different fuel tap on it, didn't cure it. Tried everything, and all it boiled down to was the float height. What it was is that the fuel level in the bowl wasn't high enough. So when it's pulling full demand, so when you're maximum revs, flat out, maximum power, it's trying to pull a lot of fuel through that carb. And the problem was, because the float level was wrong, the float bowls were just running out of fuel, because the float wasn't triggering the valve to open quick enough. So instead of the fuel coming back in when the float just lifts off, to obviously keep the fuel level right up here where it needs to be, fuel level was down here, so the volume in the bottom of the bowls half what it should be. So when you pull the maximum amount through the jet, I was running out of fuel in the bowls. So what I had to do, well, I finally figured out that I set my float bowls, and on these ones they're really easy to do. You've got a drain off screw and this little drain off pipe, so this is the overflow. And what you can do, which screw is it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that one. Right, it's one of these. I'm sure it's this one. What you can do is get your vent pipe on the side like that, clear one obviously, crack that screw off with your carb at the right angle, and you'll see the fuel level come up to where it is. So on these carbs it's nice and easy, you can see if your float level's wrong. On the carbs that are on my bike, you can't do that, because there's no drilling in the bottom for this pipe. So it was very difficult to set it up, but eventually we got there. Cured a problem that I'd lived with for a year and a half, and yeah, now it goes like a rocket, and you can hold it at full revs for as long as you like now. And it's all just down to the fuel height in the float bowl. So it's a bit tricky, you've got to try and see, that pipe there has got to go over the top of this, so it's quite tricky to get it in, and then that little pipe's got to go in that hole, and then they'll go together. So it's a compact little design, but it can be a bit tricky to get the bowls back on. There you go, a pair of clean carbs. Inside and out. What do you reckon to them? I need a turntable. Nice and snappy. Right, I'm happy with those. Now I need to find a throttle adjustment screw for this side, for one of them. The other side has a special little widget. So another nice little feature on the KR1s. These carbs are literally buried inside the frame, and they're bloody hard to get to. So what they do, because it's buried inside the frame, what this little adjuster does is allows you to alter the height of this probably easier to see at that size. So look down at that little gap. Okay. So that's accessible from the timing case side. So that's what that little, on the other side of the bike, that's what this little adjuster does. Right, so they're ready to go on a bike now. I won't prepare to stick them on there as they were because they were filthy dirty and unknown, so now they look nice and clean, and yeah, we'll stick them on a bike next. Right, that's it for tonight. Thanks for watching.